archival. Que se prefiere más seguir aquí. Alguien al Chapo.
This is the face of a criminal who's infamous for his notorious drug trafficking, cruelty, and vindictiveness. El Chapo is a figure who you might never forget. Perhaps even more than his crimes, El Chapo is well known for his attempts to escape from prison. El Chapo may be a criminal who tried to outrun his demons, but they eventually caught up to him. He escaped from prison not once, but twice. And though rumors of his third escape have fluttered around and caused ripples, they were quickly debunked by Mexican authorities. The third time might be the charm. However, there isn't anything charming waiting for El Chapo if he escaped the third time. He was notoriously sly, sinister, and eager to beguile his captors with money and gifts, and even more eager to show that he could outsmart the system. But what if he escaped the third time? What would await him in the outside world? But more importantly, what would await him if he was recaptured? El Chapo was the head of the Sinaloa drug cartel, one of the most powerful drug trafficking groups in Mexico in the late 1980s. He was a master of deceit. He built air-conditioned tunnels connecting Mexico with the US. He hid drugs in chili pepper cans and fire extinguishers. He even catapulted drugs over the border. El Chapo's smuggling tactics were simple but smart. In 1993, a rival drug trafficker attempted to assassinate El Chapo. He missed and accidentally killed a Roman Catholic cardinal and 6 other people. A few weeks later, El Chapo was arrested in Guatemala and extradited to Mexico, where he was sentenced to 20 years in prison for drug trafficking, bribery, and conspiracy. He was sent to Puente Grande, which was a maximum security prison. But prison didn't quite take away his indulgences. In prison, he had good food, women, and volleyball. El Chapo enjoyed all the comforts one could need. This was all thanks to Damaso Lopez Nunez, who was appointed as the Deputy Director of Security in 1999 and was gracious enough to let El Chapo get all that he wanted. Why? Because as soon as Damaso arrived, El Chapo showered him with money and gifts. This included $10,000 in cash and a house, and El Chapo even paid the medical bill when one of the Damaso children was injured in an accident. A shiny penny was all it took. El Chapo now had Damaso in the palm of his hand. Things would be as comfortable as they could get. 2001, El Chapo's world came crashing down. The Supreme Court of Mexico allowed the US to extradite criminals like El Chapo as long as there was no death penalty involved. El Chapo realized he needed to escape. And that is what he did the very next day. According to some accounts, El Chapo was tucked into a laundry cart and rolled out of prison by a guard he had bribed. This strategy was likely born out of the same ingenuity as the chili packets and fire extinguishers through which he used to smuggle out drugs. Though some people claim that the laundry cart story was all just a fabricated tale, El Chapo's escape was not a work of stealth. El Chapo most likely just walked out of prison in broad daylight. No one stopped him because he had bought their loyalty through money and gifts, even through simple promises. El Chapo had the prison under his thumb. Fooled and blinded by wealth and creature comforts, the guards had allowed him to simply walk out of a maximum security prison and feel the light of freedom on his face. El Chapo's second escape was even more peculiar. This time, it was 2015 at the Altiplano Maximum Security Prison in Mexico. It was an escape worthy of history, an escape that was a mastermind move. It wasn't a singular effort. This time, El Chapo's sons, his wife, and the former deputy security director, Damaso, put their heads together and schemed away, trying to find the best way to get El Chapo out of prison. On prison visits, El Chapo's wife would bring updates to him. So, how did it happen? If the first escape was a result of him buying out the guards, the second one was pure stealth and secrecy. El Chapo's family purchased land near the prison and decided to construct a house. Inside the small, unassuming house structure was a tunnel dug deep and winding straight to El Chapo's prison cell. On July 11, 2015, El Chapo escaped dramatically by riding a motorbike through the tunnel. He flew to a hideout in the mountains of La Tuna in his home state of Sinaloa, where he remained hidden for 4 years. So, where is El Chapo today?
Chapo Guzman, in short, he's a man known for no other life than a life of crime, violence, death, and destruction. And now he'll have to answer.
On July 19, 2019, he was imprisoned again. This time, he faced a life sentence and an additional 30 years. And this time, escape might not be possible for our elusive, scurrying friend. Because this time, he's locked up in the United States' most dangerous maximum security prison. ADX prison in Colorado is no walk in the park, even for the most notorious, hardcore criminals. It's a sinister place, slowly driving its prisoners to madness so that they begin biting their fingers off. Isolation is a quiet, slow, and deceptively painful death, and the inhabitants at Supermax are kept in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day in a 7x12 cell. They eat in their cells. They have showers and toilets inside of their cell. This means that there's very little time for letting them out. His chances of escaping this time are infinitely slim. For one thing, all outside visits are separated by glass, so El Chapo can't use any of his family or friends to escape. Not that he can use them anyways. His wife and children have been previously arrested for helping him escape and harboring him as a fugitive. They're constantly under watch by security and would be caught immediately if they extended a hand. His wife was arrested and imprisoned for 3 years, and one of his sons was captured by Mexican authorities in a violent attack in January of 2023. For another thing, the method of his escapades has been splashed on news channels, blog posts, and the lips of every stranger on the street. It's now common knowledge. Every move he makes would already be anticipated by the security. Experts have already theorized exactly what steps he may take, and they already know how to respond to them. If El Chapo tried to escape, he would not only need help from the outside, but he would also need to bribe the prison guards. The tricky part is that he needs to be on good terms with all the guards, as even a single guard has the power to press one button that would close all 1,600 gates of the prison at once. These are tough odds to overcome. The geographical construction of the prison is like an endless labyrinth of twisting paths and prison guards swarming every inch of it. For prisoners in solitary confinement who are completely unfamiliar with the place, escaping is next to impossible.
So-called Supermax prison is sort of a 21st century Alcatraz, and after months of reporting, we've pulled together a picture of this little-known facility where we found convicted Al-Qaeda terrorists are being force-fed, and some guards are worrying about their own safety. Supermax is the place that America sends the prisoners it wants to punish the most, a place former Warden Robert Hood describes as a clean version of hell.
If, by some chance, El Chapo outsmarts the prison and its guards, he would be the first prisoner ever to escape the ADX. This maximum security prison has historically been the most secure prison in the entire world. For him to fool a system that was designed to be so foolproof would be a feat so remarkable, El Chapo would be considered the greatest criminal alive. So far, El Chapo's attempts to escape have been quite conventional. The first attempt to escape was clear to every single person in the prison. After all, why else would a prisoner bribe his captor with money and gifts? As for the second one, the attempts to build the tunnel didn't quite go under the radar. The inhabitants of the prison had been complaining about underground noises for months. It's possible that someone suspected some escape was being planned. Moreover, the house constructed right outside the prison also drew suspicion from the nearby gas station, which was curious as to why the house had no inhabitants, and why, if it did, none of them ever stopped by to get fuel for their cars. El Chapo's attempts have always had holes and always drawn suspicion. It would be fascinating to see what could happen if he escapes. One would assume that he could easily slip from the authorities and stay hidden, but considering his high-profile status, anonymity and hiding in plain sight would be an impossible task. Eventually, someone might recognize the face from the court sessions and the news channels and connect the dots. So far, every single time he's been caught, his prison security goes up a notch. But since ADX Florence is one of the world's most securest prisons, it's difficult to imagine where he would end up. Perhaps he would be transferred to some other maximum security prisons, like Federal Correctional Complex in Terre Haute, where there are 360 view cameras and highly sensitive motion sensors and face-detecting technology. Realistically, El Chapo's escape is unlikely. The man who once turned the odds in his favor through cash and family may be locked up for good this time. It's been 4 years so far of him facing his demons alone in a small, confined cell. And maybe he'll continue to face them for the rest of his life. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and leave a comment down below. What do you think? Is it humanly possible for El Chapo to escape this time around? Please consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like this and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. We'll see you next time around. Until then, farewell.